For thousands of years, humans have etched marks into stone, drawn shapes in ritual circles, and worn cryptic emblems across their bodies. Not as decoration, but as invocation. These were not art. They were symbols, living, breathing carriers of knowledge far older than any written language. But what makes a symbol occult? The word occult stems from the Latin occultus, meaning hidden, secret, or beyond sight. Occultism is the study of mysteries concealed from the average eye, energies and truths that lie beneath the surface of ordinary perception. In this world, symbols are not merely icons, they are keys. Keys to unlocking cosmic laws, spiritual forces, and deeper layers of consciousness. From ancient Egypt to modern esoteric orders, from alchemical manuscripts to Masonic rituals, occult symbols have been used by mystics, magicians, and seekers to connect with the divine, manipulate energy, or protect against invisible threats. But in today's world, these symbols are often misunderstood, or worse, feared. Popular culture distorts their meanings, while secret societies guard their deeper truths. Some have been adopted as emblems of rebellion, others co-opted into mass consciousness with no understanding of their original power. In this three-part journey, we will illuminate the darkened meanings behind some of the most powerful and controversial occult symbols, from the Ankh to the inverted pentagram, the Eye of Providence to the Hexagram, the Leviathan cross, and beyond. By the end, you'll no longer see these symbols as strange markings. You'll see them for what they are, spiritual blueprints, each one a mirror, a weapon, or a whisper from the ancient world. The all-seeing eye. It stares from the top of a pyramid, glows behind government seals, and appears in visions, paintings, and dreams, always watching, never blinking. This is the all-seeing eye, also known as the Eye of Providence, a symbol that has transcended religion, empire, and time itself. To some, it is the eye of God, omnipresent, omniscient, eternally observing the hearts of humanity. To others, it is a Masonic mark, an occult sigil of power, knowledge, and surveillance. But in truth, its meaning is as layered and mysterious as the symbol itself. The concept of a divine, ever-watchful eye dates back to ancient Egypt, to the Eye of Horus and Eye of Ra, which symbolize protection, spiritual insight, and divine kingship. These eyes weren't merely anatomical. They were portals of perception between the mortal and the divine. Fast forward centuries, and we find the symbol re-emerge in Christian art, often encased within a triangle, representing the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Surrounded by radiant light, it became known as the Eye of Providence, a sign that God sees all, guides all, and judges all. But then came the Enlightenment, and with it, secret societies like the Freemasons, who adopted the symbol not as a passive watcher, but as a beacon of inner illumination. The eye became a sign of the great architect of the universe, the divine force behind creation, reason, and structure. In the Masonic tradition, the all-seeing eye represents more than divine vision. It is conscience made visible. The unblinking eye reminds initiates that their actions are always witnessed, not just by deity, but by their own higher self. It is the gaze of truth, piercing illusion, demanding integrity. Placed above the unfinished pyramid, as seen on the Great Seal of the United States, the eye symbolizes the eternal pursuit of spiritual completion, the idea that the soul's journey is never truly finished. The 13 steps of the pyramid below it, a nod to the original American colonies, and also a likely numerological reference to transformation and rebellion. The Latin phrase beneath the seal, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, has stirred centuries of speculation. Was it divine destiny or occult declaration? Today, the all-seeing eye is wrapped in controversy. Conspiracy theorists associate it with Illuminati control, shadow governments, and mind surveillance. Some view it as a sigil of manipulation, the Eye of Lucifer, symbol of fallen wisdom and forbidden knowledge. But like all symbols, its power lies not in its image, but in its intention. To the mystic, the eye is the flame of awareness. To the magician, it is focus made form. To the seeker, it is the reminder. You are always seen, not by others, but by your soul. As with many occult symbols, the all-seeing eye is neither good nor evil. It is a mirror, reflecting what we bring to it. Is it divine guidance or total surveillance, enlightenment or control? That depends entirely on who wields it. In the next section, we'll explore the symbol it's most often confused with, one just as ancient and just as powerful, the Eye of Horus, born of myth, battle, and resurrection in the black sands of Kemet. The Eye of Horus, Wadjet Eye. In the land of golden sands and black granite tombs, where gods walked as kings and kings were buried as gods, one symbol held the power of life, death, protection, and healing. The Eye of Horus, also called the Wadjet Eye, is one of the oldest and most enduring symbols in the occult and spiritual world. More than a mere emblem, it is a tale etched in myth, a story of sacrifice, war, and divine restoration. The myth. According to Egyptian mythology, Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky and son of Osiris, fought a brutal battle with his uncle Set, the god of chaos and destruction. Set had murdered Osiris and seized the throne. Horus, seeking to avenge his father and restore balance, entered into a divine war. During their struggle, Horus's left eye was torn out by Set, but the gods intervened. The wise deity Thoth, master of writing, magic, and lunar cycles, healed and restored the eye, making it more powerful than before. Thus, the Eye of Horus became a symbol of wholeness regained, of that which is broken being made holy again. But this symbol was more than myth. It was mathematics, magic, and medicine, encoded into a single glyph. Symbolism. The Eye of Horus is a sacred fractal. Its parts correspond to mathematical units used in ancient Egyptian measurement. The eyebrow, the iris, the teardrop. Each part of the eye represents a fraction of a whole. To the ancients, it was not just a symbol of sight. It was a blueprint of cosmic order. Occultists later recognized this fractal structure as a representation of the intuitive and analytical mind, the unity between logic and spirit, moon and sun, human and divine. The left eye of Horus, Wadjet, represents the moon, healing, protection, and inner sight, while the right eye, often conflated with the Eye of Ra, symbolizes the sun, power, and divine wrath. The Eye of Horus was carved into amulets, painted on coffins, and inscribed into temples to protect the dead in their journey through the underworld. To wear it was to carry a piece of divine perception, a ward against deception, illness, and evil. Occult and modern use. In esoteric traditions, the Eye of Horus is invoked during rituals of psychic awakening, third eye activation, and energetic protection. It is believed to guard against psychic attack, misfortune, and spiritual blindness. It is also a powerful symbol of resurrection, of the soul reclaiming its light after darkness. Despite frequent confusion with the all-seeing eye, the Eye of Horus is not an eye of judgment, but of healing, clarity, and divine memory. It does not watch you, it watches with you. In the modern world, it has been adopted by mystics, magicians, and spiritual seekers across traditions. Some wear it for style, not knowing they carry the myth of cosmic restoration on their skin. But for the awakened, the Eye of Horus is a mirror of the inner eye, a symbol that whispers, "You were once broken, but you are whole again. You always were." In our next section, we move from the Eye of Resurrection to the Ankh, the Egyptian cross of life, and a portal to the mysteries of immortality, union, and divine breath. The Ankh, a loop above a cross. Simple, elegant, eternal. But behind this shape lies a mystery that has endured for over 5,000 years. A symbol not just of life, but of its divine source and sacred continuity. The Ankh, often called the key of life, the crux ansata, or the key of the Nile, is one of the most ancient and powerful symbols of occult and spiritual wisdom. Its roots lie in ancient Egypt, where it appeared in temples, tombs, scrolls, and carvings, always held by gods, pharaohs, and the forces of creation. The Ankh is most often seen clutched in the hands of deities, Isis, Osiris, Horus, Ra, held outwards toward kings, initiates, or the dead. But this gesture was not symbolic alone, it was energetic. It signified the act of giving life, of passing divine breath into the soul of the recipient. To the Egyptians, the Ankh was more than a symbol. It was a tool of transmission, a talisman of eternity, and a visual formula for the unity of opposites. Its form is deceptively simple. The loop at the top symbolizes the feminine principle, the womb, or eternal spirit. The vertical bar represents the masculine, divine energy descending from above. The crossbar is the horizon, where sky meets earth, where spirit meets matter. In this way, the Ankh represents sacred union between male and female, heaven and earth, body and soul. It is the alchemy of opposites, the breath of the divine entering the physical realm. Some Egyptologists have referred to the Ankh as the key of the Nile, connecting it to fertility and abundance. The Nile was seen as the source of all life in Egypt. When Osiris and Isis united, the river would flood, feeding the soil, resurrecting the land. Thus, the Ankh became a symbol not only of spiritual life, but of earthly regeneration, of the cycles of agriculture, of human reproduction, and of resurrection after death. The pharaohs, considered living gods, were often depicted receiving ankhs from the gods as a sign of eternal legitimacy, divine favor, and spiritual rulership. In funerary art, the Ankh marked the journey into the field of reeds, Egypt's paradise after death. Over time, the Ankh transcended its culture. Hermetic traditions, alchemy, and later Rosicrucian and Theosophical orders adopted it as a symbol of the soul's immortality and the inner mysteries of life and death. Early Coptic Christians used a variant of the Ankh as a cross of eternal life, blending ancient Egyptian wisdom with Christian theology. In modern esoteric circles, the Ankh is used as an energetic amplifier. It is believed to open portals during rituals, enhance aura strength, and unlock blocked meridians in the energy body. It is also seen as a symbolic counterpart to the pineal gland, the seat of spiritual sight. But most of all, it remains a symbol of continuity, that life does not end, it transforms. When you wear or meditate upon the Ankh, you align with this truth. You are the vessel, you are the breath, you are the bridge between worlds. In the next section, we explore a shape of symmetry, duality, and elemental power, the hexagram, a symbol rooted in magic, alchemy, and the meeting point of heaven and earth. The hexagram, two triangles, one points to the heavens, the other to the earth. Where they intersect lies the balance of opposites, spirit and matter, fire and water, the divine and the human. This is the hexagram, a six-pointed star that has captivated mystics, magicians, and monarchs across cultures for millennia. Most know it today as the Star of David, the emblem of Judaism, but its roots and meanings reach far deeper than any one religion. In occultism, the hexagram is a cosmic glyph, a visual key to the unification of dual forces. It is found in alchemy, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and planetary magic. It is the seal of equilibrium, the geometric spell that aligns opposites into divine harmony. Long before it adorned synagogues, the six-pointed star was used in Hindu yantras, Sumerian carvings, and magical grimoires. The upward triangle symbolized fire and masculine energy, active, ascending, spiritual. The downward triangle symbolized water and feminine energy, receptive, nurturing, and earthly. When superimposed, the two become a mandala of unity. Their six outer points represent the directions of space: north, south, east, west, above, and below, while the center point signifies the conscious self, the soul, the point of awareness between realms. This configuration, when activated in ritual, was believed to open portals between macrocosm and microcosm, allowing the practitioner to command angelic forces, elemental spirits, or planetary intelligences. The Seal of Solomon. In medieval magic, the hexagram became known as the Seal of Solomon, a legendary symbol carved into a ring that gave the biblical king control over spirits, demons, and nature itself. According to legend, Solomon used the ring not just to build his temple, but to command the unseen. The seal was said to grant wisdom, protection, and divine insight, its geometry functioning as both a talisman and a sigil of authority. It wasn't just a design, it was a spiritual algorithm, the visual essence of as above, so below. In alchemy, the hexagram unites the four elements into a fifth essence, or quintessence, the philosopher's stone in symbolic form. Each point correlates to a metal and planet: gold for the sun, silver for the moon, Mercury for Mercury, and so on. The six outer points plus the center equals 7, the sacred number of the classical planets. As such, hexagrams were used in planetary magic to invoke or banish specific forces. They were drawn in chalk on floors, inked into grimoires, and worn as amulets during invocation rituals. For the initiated, the hexagram is not simply a shape, it is a state of being. It represents the reconciled self, where lower instincts and higher wisdom are fused into one. To meditate upon the hexagram is to call all your parts into union, to become, for a moment, the living temple of divine symmetry. That is why it is still used today in mystical Judaism, Kabbalah, ceremonial magic, Golden Dawn rituals, and thelemic practices. It is a shield, a gateway, a beacon, a symbol of harmony, invocation, and command. In our next chapter, we look at its modern cousin, the unicursal hexagram, a symbol drawn in a single stroke used by Aleister Crowley and Thelemites, carrying the weight of continuity, chaos, and personal will. The unicursal hexagram. It is a star of 6 points, like the traditional hexagram, but it is drawn with a single, unbroken line, a continuous loop with no clear beginning and no end. This is the unicursal hexagram, an evolution of the classic star, favored by Aleister Crowley and the mystical religion he founded, Thelema. It is a symbol of continuity, precision, and the unbroken path of will. Unlike the overlapping triangles of the standard hexagram, the unicursal version flows in one stroke, a design that allows it to be traced without lifting the pen, or more importantly, the wand. The traditional hexagram represents the union of opposites, fire and water, spirit and matter. But the unicursal hexagram adds a layer of movement and ritual functionality. Its single-line construction makes it ideal for ceremonial magic, particularly within the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, where symbols are traced in the air to invoke or banish specific energies. To draw the symbol in one breath is to conjure a continuous stream of intention, to move energy in perfect balance without interruption. Crowley, ever the alchemical innovator, adopted this version and infused it with his own mystic vision. In his thelemic system, the unicursal hexagram represents the interplay of divine order and individual will, the balance of cosmos and self-determination. He placed a 5-petaled rose, the rosy cross, at its center. This rose symbolized the human soul, blooming within the geometry of the universe. The result is a cosmic mandala of Crowley's most sacred belief: do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Not a call to chaos, but to discover your true will, the divine purpose encoded into your being. Occult power. The unicursal hexagram became a central glyph in Thelema, featured on magical tools, ritual clothing, and talismans. It is often used in banishing rituals, to dispel negative forces or prepare a sacred space. But beyond function, it is a philosophical emblem, a mirror of a soul in alignment, moving through life as one continuous, sovereign path. In this way, it resonates with the eternal flame of consciousness, never divided, never severed. The 6 points still represent the classical powers and planetary forces, but now they orbit a living center: the initiate, the practitioner, the awakened one. Crowley believed this symbol revealed a new aeon, the Aeon of Horus, where humanity would no longer be ruled by gods outside themselves, but by the God within. Misunderstanding and symbolic strength. Today, the unicursal hexagram is often confused with satanic imagery, misunderstood due to its association with Crowley and esoteric magic. But in truth, it carries no inherent evil. Like all powerful symbols, its meaning flows from the intention of the one who wields it. To the true initiate, it is a sigil of self-mastery, the sign of a soul walking its path without hesitation, without fragmentation. It is you, unbroken. The Cross of Nero. At first glance, it's a symbol worn on t-shirts, painted on protest signs, and etched into the collective memory of the 1960s. But behind its global identity as a beacon of peace lies a far more obscure and unsettling origin. This symbol, commonly known as the peace sign, is also called the Cross of Nero, the broken cross, or the Druid's foot. To truly understand it, we must go back to 1st century Rome, to the rule of Emperor Nero, a man remembered for his cruelty, persecution of Christians, and obsession with control. Legend has it that Nero ordered the crucifixion of St. Peter, one of the founders of early Christianity. But Peter, in a final act of humility, asked not to be crucified like Christ, deeming himself unworthy. Instead, he was nailed to the cross upside down. This inverted crucifixion would later inspire what came to be known as St. Peter's Cross, a symbol of martyrdom and spiritual humility. However, when that inverted cross was placed inside a circle, an ancient shape symbolizing totality and the world, it took on an entirely new identity. In occult circles, the Cross of Nero became a visual rejection of Christian ideology. The upright Latin cross, symbol of salvation, was now shattered, bent downward in what some esoteric historians interpret as an invocation of spiritual death or rebellion. The circle surrounding it was seen as a mocking world without Christ, a cosmic closure devoid of divine light. During the 20th century, British designer Gerald Holtham adopted the same symbol for nuclear disarmament, not realizing, or perhaps subtly acknowledging, its occult past. He based it on the semaphore signals for the letters N and D, nuclear disarmament, two arm-like shapes reaching downward and outward. Ironically, the despair in its form, arms stretched down as if in surrender, resonated with ancient symbolic meanings of defeat or death. Despite this, the symbol surged in popularity during the peace movements of the 1960s and became synonymous with anti-war protests, hippie counterculture, and global calls for unity. But the contradiction remained, a symbol born from persecution, inversion, and destruction, repurposed to represent hope. Some occultists and conspiracy theorists still claim that the peace sign carries anti-Christian undertones, warning that its use channels dark energies. Others argue it's been alchemically reversed, a once negative sigil now transformed by the will of collective consciousness into a force for peace. What remains undeniable is its power. Few symbols have traversed as many realms: Christian martyrdom, Roman tyranny, modern activism, and occult philosophy, all while keeping their essence intact beneath the surface. Whether you see it as a call to arms, a plea for peace, or a hidden mark of spiritual rebellion, the Cross of Nero proves one eternal truth of occult symbols. Nothing is ever just what it seems. The Sun Cross. Before there were alphabets, before there were gods with names, there was the sun, burning in the sky like an all-seeing eye, giver of warmth, life, and rhythm. And from that celestial fire came one of humanity's earliest and most sacred symbols, the Sun Cross. Also known as the Solar Cross, Pagan Cross, or Wheel Cross. This symbol is deceptively simple, a circle divided evenly by a cross. But within its lines lies a universe of meaning, found etched into ancient stones in Scandinavia, India, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Americas. The Sun Cross transcends language, race, and time. It is the universal archetype of the sun wheel, representing the cyclical nature of life, the four seasons, the cardinal directions, and the eternal cosmic dance of time. To the ancient Egyptians, the cross within the circle echoed the movement of the Ra, the solar deity who journeyed across the sky by day and into the underworld by night. Pharaohs saw the sun as the supreme life force, divine order incarnate. Thus, the Sun Cross became a symbol not only of celestial power, but of divine kingship and the cosmic hierarchy that held the world together. In Norse mythology, the Sun Cross appears in connection with Sol, the goddess who drives the solar chariot. It was carved into runestones and burial sites, an emblem of guidance for the soul in its posthumous voyage. In Wicca and modern neo-pagan traditions, the Solar Cross continues to be revered as the Wheel of the Year, a sacred map of the 8 seasonal Sabbats, from Imbolc to Samhain, Litha to Yule. It reflects the eternal return, death, rebirth, renewal. But like all powerful symbols, it has not escaped misuse. The Sun Cross has, in some modern contexts, been appropriated by neo-pagan nationalist groups, twisting its heritage into ideologies of exclusion and racial supremacy. Yet this distortion only underscores its potency. Symbols that channel primal forces can be misdirected, but their core truth remains. Philosophically, the Solar Cross represents balance. The vertical axis is the realm of spirit, heaven and earth. The horizontal axis is the realm of matter, east and west, birth and death, light and dark. The circle that surrounds both lines signifies eternity, the infinite loop of time, the Ouroboros of the heavens. In some alchemical texts, the Sun Cross is also linked to the golden principle, symbolizing the unification of opposites into a single, perfected whole. It is the prima materia made visible. And unlike the inverted or broken cross, the Sun Cross is not a reaction. It is a foundation, a primordial emblem, born not of resistance, but of reverence. It asks nothing, but reveals everything to those who look closely. It is the eye of the eternal, the wheel of the divine, the rhythm of your breath and the beating of the cosmos in sync. The Pentagram and Pentacle. It begins with a single point, then spreads into 5 arms of perfect balance. A star, drawn in one continuous motion. This is the Pentagram, one of the oldest and most sacred symbols in the world, etched into cave walls, carved into ritual tools, and traced in the air by magicians invoking the forces of nature and spirit. When enclosed in a circle, it becomes the pentacle, a sealed star, empowered and protected, amplified and complete. Origins and sacred geometry. The pentagram's history is as old as recorded time. In Mesopotamia, it was used to symbolize royal power and sacred direction. In Pythagorean Greece, it was known as the pentalpha, a geometric emblem of health, harmony, and the golden ratio, that divine proportion found in seashells, galaxies, and the human form. The 5 points of the pentagram represent the 5 classical elements: earth, grounding, stability, matter, air, thought, breath, communication, fire, will, transformation, energy, water, emotion, intuition, flow, spirit, the eternal force that unites and transcends the other 4. Drawn upright, with spirit at the top, the pentagram represents balance, unity, and ascension. It is the human being in perfect alignment. Head, arms, and legs open to the cosmos, rooted in the earth, reaching toward the divine. The circle added around the star, the pentacle, represents containment of power, protection, and infinity. It seals the elements, stabilizing and harmonizing their energies. Together, they form one of the most powerful talismans in occult and pagan practice. Magical traditions. In Wicca and modern witchcraft, the pentacle is the central symbol of the altar, placed beneath candles, chalices, and atamis to consecrate tools and anchor sacred space. It is worn as a pendant to symbolize devotion to nature, spirit, and the mysteries of life. In ceremonial magic, pentagrams are drawn in the air with ritual tools to invoke or banish elemental forces. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, one of the foundational rites of Western occultism, uses it to clear negative energies and seal the space in protection. But the pentagram has not always been embraced. The inverted pentagram. 5 points. 2 rise like horns. 1 descends into shadow. The symbol that once represented spiritual harmony is now turned on its head, literally. This is the inverted pentagram, and its most infamous evolution, the Sigil of Baphomet. These symbols strike a chord of dread, fascination, and defiance in the modern world. But beneath the fear lies philosophy, power, and a war of symbols as old as civilization itself. From protection to perversion. In its upright form, the pentagram points spirit above matter, order above chaos, the divine guiding the elemental. But invert it, and you change the current. Spirit falls below, matter rises. The rationale gives way to instinct. The heavens are rejected, and the underworld answers. In traditional ceremonial magic, this inversion was not merely blasphemous, it was functional. To invoke certain spirits, especially those tied to the infernal or carnal, a reversal of spiritual polarity was necessary. The inverted pentagram was a doorway, not into hell, but into the primordial chaos beneath structure. To some occultists, it represented the descent of the soul into matter, the initiatory path of the shadow, the alchemical nigredo, the dark night before illumination. But to the church and later popular culture, it became something much simpler, evil incarnate. Enter Baphomet. In the 19th century, French occultist Eliphas Lévy famously illustrated a horned, androgynous figure seated in lotus posture. Baphomet, a goat-headed entity symbolizing balance, wisdom, and duality, male and female, light and dark, above and below. His arms bore the words solve and coagula, dissolve and reform, the alchemical process of transformation. Though not a deity in any traditional sense, Baphomet became an archetype, a visual cipher for esoteric synthesis. But later, the image would be reclaimed by modern Satanism, reinterpreted as a symbol of liberation from religious dogma. It was Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, who popularized the Sigil of Baphomet, an inverted pentagram with a goat's head, encircled by Hebrew letters spelling Leviathan, the primordial sea serpent from Jewish mysticism. This symbol became the official insignia of LaVeyan Satanism, not a call to evil, but a declaration of atheistic individualism. It mocked religious structures, uplifted carnal wisdom, and called man his own god, meaning behind the shadow. To the satanic philosopher, the Sigil of Baphomet is a banner of rebellion, against conformity, against self-denial, and against blind faith. It venerates instinct, passion, and personal sovereignty over guilt and submission. But to the uninitiated, it became a fearsome glyph, used in horror, graffiti, and propaganda. Its deeper meanings were buried beneath mass hysteria, urban legends, and moral panic. And so, the inverted pentagram split into two worlds. In one, it is a tool of ritual, a symbolic descent into chaos to be mastered. In the other, it is a caricature of evil, feared but never understood. The truth, like all symbols, its power lies in intention. It can be a mirror for the divine rebel or the shadow tyrant, a gateway to self-knowledge or to self-deception. To wear it is to make a statement. I do not follow the light you offer. I find my own. The Leviathan Cross. It stands tall like a crucifix, but beneath its double bar hovers a horizontal loop, the infinity symbol, and together they form a statement older than dogma and more dangerous than heresy. This is the Leviathan Cross, also known as the Satanic Cross, the Brimstone Sigil, or the Infinity Cross, a symbol steeped in alchemy, philosophy, and modern satanic thought, a bold glyph that asserts, man is the center of the universe, and there is no higher god than the self. Origins. In alchemy, long before it became the emblem of modern Satanism, the Leviathan Cross existed in the laboratories of the ancient alchemists. It was known simply as the symbol for sulfur, the fiery element that represented the soul. In the sacred trinity of alchemical substances, sulfur stood alongside salt, body, and mercury, spirit, symbolizing the volatile essence of transformation. Sulfur burns, it cleanses, it purifies by destruction. It is the fire of will. Alchemists used the cross to denote masculine force, dryness, and heat, all qualities associated with both life force and infernal flame. In that sense, it was always on the edge of shadow, flirting with danger and necessary for transmutation. But it wasn't until the 20th century that this symbol would rise again, reborn in defiance. Anton LaVey and the Satanic Reclamation. In 1966, Anton Sandor LaVey founded the Church of Satan, seeking not to worship an actual devil, but to challenge the conformity and hypocrisy of organized religion. He did not believe in Satan as a being, but as an archetype, rebellious, wise, individualistic, unapologetic. LaVey adopted the ancient sulfur symbol and renamed it the Leviathan Cross. He elevated it from a forgotten alchemical sign to the banner of modern Satanism. It was placed beneath the 9 satanic statements in the Satanic Bible, where it stood as a silent revolution. You are your own God. There is no salvation but through self. The double cross at the top, known as the Cross of Lorraine, had previously been used in Christian crusades and heraldry. But here, it took on new meaning: balance, protection, and the breaking of religious tradition. The infinity loop beneath it proclaimed an eternal truth. Man is limitless, not spiritually, but existentially. There is no heaven, no hell, no judgment, only the infinite flame of the sovereign will. Symbolic power. In satanic philosophy, the Leviathan Cross is not a symbol of evil, but of radical self-honesty. It strips away illusion. It destroys false humility. It demands that you take ownership of your desires, your actions, and your life. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a banner for those who choose to walk alone, unafraid, unrepentant, and awake. But even for those outside satanic thought, the Leviathan cross holds archetypal power. In its geometry lies the path of every seeker who chooses to question, to rebel, to reclaim their inner flame. Whether seen as blasphemy or enlightenment, one thing is certain: it cannot be ignored. The Caduceus. At first glance, the Caduceus appears as a simple object, a winged staff with two serpents entwined around it in perfect symmetry. And yet this symbol, so often misunderstood, carries within it the entire map of alchemy, energy, duality, and transformation. It is a symbol that bridges gods and mortals, medicine and mysticism, truth and illusion. Its twin serpents spiral upward not just around wood or metal, but around the axis of the human experience. The Caduceus is most famously associated with Hermes Trismegistus, the Greco-Egyptian fusion of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth. Hermes was the messenger of the gods, the psychopomp who guided souls between realms, the inventor of language, numbers, and occult wisdom. He walked the liminal roads between heaven and earth, truth and trickery. In Roman tradition, he becomes Mercury, the swift-footed communicator of divine will. And in esoteric Hermeticism, he is elevated to Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great master of magic, alchemy, and the mysteries of the cosmos. The Caduceus was his emblem, a symbol of balance and negotiation, between opposites, between chaos and order, between the soul and the world it inhabits. The two serpents are not enemies. They are opposites in motion, winding upward in mirrored arcs, male and female, light and dark, conscious and unconscious. They move in harmony, not conflict. Each is the shadow of the other, and their union is what brings the staff to life. In alchemical thought, these serpents represent the polar forces of nature: sulfur and mercury, fire and water, heaven and earth. Their motion is spiral, not linear, suggesting growth, awakening, and energetic ascension. Like the Kundalini energy coiled at the base of the spine in yogic philosophy, these serpents rise when awakened, piercing through energy centers towards spiritual illumination. The central rod is more than just a staff. It is the axis mundi, the world pillar present in nearly every sacred tradition. In Norse mythology, it is Yggdrasil. In Egyptian cosmology, the Djed pillar. In the human body, it is the spinal column, along which the energy of consciousness rises. When the serpents rise, they cross at specific points, echoing the chakras, the nodes of energy, each with its own vibration and lesson. At the top of the staff, wings, symbolizing transcendence, awakening, and the moment when opposites dissolve into unity. This is not just a symbol, it is a spiritual engine. In modern times, the Caduceus is most often associated with medicine, but here lies a historical misplacement. The true medical symbol is the rod of Asclepius, a single serpent entwined around a staff, representing healing and regeneration. The Caduceus, with its two serpents and wings, was historically tied to commerce, negotiation, and even deception, appropriate to Mercury's role as patron of merchants and tricksters. Its adoption by the medical field may have been a symbolic accident, or perhaps in deeper truth, a spiritual irony, suggesting that healing too lies in navigating duality and deception to reach wholeness. In this way, even its misuse reveals something hidden. Not all that appears healing is truly so, and not all symbols carry only one meaning. In its most elevated form, the Caduceus represents the alchemical marriage, the sacred union of opposites within the self. The two serpents become the masculine and feminine energies within, rising through the central channel to ignite the divine spark at the crown. This is the moment of gnosis, the flash of realization when the initiate understands that duality is an illusion, that all opposites are reflections of the one. The wings that blossom from the top of the star are not decorative. They represent the liberation of the soul. To the Hermetic initiate, the Caduceus is not just a symbol, it is a map, a ritual, a mirror, and a key to divine equilibrium. But as with all occult glyphs, the Caduceus carries a warning. Balance is not comfort. To walk between opposites is to risk both madness and mastery. The serpents must rise in harmony. If one overpowers the other, the system collapses. The Caduceus is therefore not a symbol of ease. It is a symbol of discipline, of sacred inner alchemy, and the high cost of transcendence. Ouroboros, the serpent that devours time. A serpent curves in a perfect circle, its tail clenched between its jaws. It does not fight. It does not writhe. It feeds upon itself, and in doing so, becomes whole. This is the Ouroboros, one of the oldest and most potent symbols in occult philosophy. It is a symbol so ancient, so universal, that it transcends culture. It has been drawn in Egyptian tombs, carved on Norse staves, whispered of in Hermetic scrolls, and encoded into alchemical manuscripts. Yet its essence has always remained the same. The Ouroboros is the visual language of the infinite. Its body is coiled into a circle, the most sacred of all shapes, without beginning or end. Its act of consuming itself is not destruction, but perpetual renewal. It is the cycle of the moon, the seasons, the tides, and the soul's reincarnation. In alchemy, it is the prima materia, devouring itself in the furnace of transformation. In mysticism, it is the spiral of death and rebirth. In psychology, it is the confrontation of the ego, the part of ourselves we must consume in order to transcend. Where the cross of Nero speaks of collapse and reversal, and the Caduceus speaks of ascension through balance, the Ouroboros speaks of something older still, the need to dissolve in order to evolve. The earliest known Ouroboros appears in the enigmatic Book of the Netherworld, carved into an Egyptian tomb dating back over 3,000 years. There the serpent encircles the god Ra and the solar bark, guarding the underworld, marking the boundary between chaos and cosmic order. To the Egyptians, this was no mere snake. It was Mahan, the cosmic coil that protected divine energy. In its curves lay the structure of time, the looping journey of the sun, and the inviolable rhythm of resurrection. Later, the symbol was absorbed into Greek Hermeticism, where it found its voice in alchemical texts. One famous Ouroboros is depicted black and white, half light, half dark, representing the unity of opposites, the integration of shadow and radiance. The Ouroboros is often paired with the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below. Why? Because it embodies that principle, a microcosm and macrocosm. It is the universe eating itself, and the soul healing its own fractures. It is the closed loop of karma, the furnace of self-mastery, the loop of time, space, identity, and divine return. To look into the Ouroboros is to ask the question, what part of me must die in order to truly live? In alchemy, the Ouroboros is a symbol of the great work, not just the transformation of metals, but the transformation of self. The serpent devouring its tail is the initiate dissolving the false ego, burning it in fire, breaking it down to ash, so that something more alive, more eternal can rise in its place. The Ouroboros also represents the closed system, a world unto itself. In alchemical diagrams, it often encircles other glyphs, the triangle, the cross, the star, containing them, reminding the student that all work must happen within. There is no exit, no escape, only inner revolution. It whispers, solver et coagula, dissolve and reunite. But the Ouroboros is not pure harmony. Its image is primal. It confronts us with something disturbing and beautiful, that life sustains itself by consuming itself, that to grow something must be surrendered, that every breath you take is bought by the death of something smaller. It asks us, will you cling to the tail or become the circle? In shadow work, the Ouroboros reflects the self-saboteur, the patterns that loop, the wounds we feed, the identities we protect even when they hurt us. But when confronted consciously, it becomes the very engine of awakening. It does not seek to destroy, it seeks to complete. To the modern mystic, the Ouroboros is not just a concept. It is a process, a reality, a spiritual technology. Meditation on the Ouroboros can be used to release addictive cycles, to understand personal karma, to align with the rhythm of death and rebirth. Some initiates visualize the Ouroboros encircling the aura, devouring stagnant energy and regenerating new pathways. Others place it around sacred geometry, using it to charge sigils or bind intentions into a closed field. Its shape is found in the DNA spiral, in the Ouroboric flow of breath, in the wheel of the year, in the circle of the zodiac. In truth, it is everywhere, always present, always devouring, always creating. And so the Ouroboros, simple, silent, endless, reminds us that every ending is a womb, and every birth carries the echo of what came before. It is a symbol not of escape, but of integration, not of beginning or end, but of the eternal now. To wear it, to meditate on it, to understand it, is to step outside of time and remember that everything you need is already within the circle. Symbols are everywhere, carved into stone, hidden in cathedrals, woven into flags, logos, currencies, and architecture, but most pass them by, never knowing they are being spoken to in a language older than words. The truth is simple. We do not see symbols. Symbols see us. They reflect the level of consciousness we bring to them. To one person, the pentagram is a badge of darkness. To another, it is the dance of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit in perfect union. The Eye of Providence may be a sign of divine guidance or of invisible control. The Ankh may be a relic of a dead civilization, or the key to unlocking immortality within the self. These symbols endure because they are not fixed. They live, they evolve, they mirror. They invite us to think, to feel, to remember something ancient. And this is the secret. All occult symbols are fragments of a greater map, a map leading inward to the forgotten temple within the human soul. When you begin to understand them, really understand them, you awaken to a universe that is not chaotic, but designed, not ruled, but animated by meaning. In an age of noise and illusion, symbolic literacy is not decoration. It is defense. It is awakening. It is the ability to see behind the veil and remember who you really are. So the next time you see a symbol, etched in stone, glinting on jewelry, or pulsing from a forgotten book, pause. It may not be speaking to your eyes, but it is whispering to your soul.